Hi, I'm BJ Counsel, founder of UN50. As a retired police officer and executive, this job led me to my life's purpose. I served humans experiencing varying levels of crisis, trying to get jobs, housing, educational needs, health care, but due to personal barriers or overworked systems, these humans aren't able to obtain life's simple goal of just being stable. I believe if basic human needs are met, the need for law enforcement interactions are lessened. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a long time. Well, I don't think I've done a podcast since 2023. So I have a guest that I've been wanting to get on here because he is the chief of Kinston Police Department, and I've been working with and hanging out with him since about 2019. He wasn't chief then, but our relationship, I feel like, has developed since then. And he is very supportive of UN50, so I wanted to make sure that he had a chance to come on. Just for those folks that may not know who UN50 and what it's about, is that it's talking to individuals on how to safely interact with law enforcement. I'm a retired police executive and felt like the need to have these conversations, and especially from a perspective of a Black police executive, and how to communicate and safely interact with all the things that are continually going on in this climate. So that's kind of what it's about. You can visit my website. That information will be there along on the YouTube channel. So basically what we're going to just talk about is Chief Keith Goyette. We're going to have him introduce himself to you, and then we're going to go through and let you hear about his organization in this climate, obviously, and the things that he's doing to work with his community, and why, why he wants to be a chief, for one thing. I mean, that's not exactly something everybody strives to be. So Chief Keith Goyette, Kinston Police Department in Kinston, North Carolina. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Very, very thankful to be here. We've had a partnership since, I guess, 2018, 2019, and we've worked together. You've done a great job helping us out here in Kinston, and I'm just glad to be here today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let's let folks know who you are. Is Kinston your hometown? Is that, did you always want to be the police? And, what's all that, your background? So give us a little bit of insight about who Keith Goyette is.
Sure. So I never wanted to be a police officer, much less a police chief. So to start with, really, so I'm from Maine. I lived in Maine until I was around 8, 9 years old. And then we moved to Charleston, to Charlotte. And then I moved to Kinston probably when I was around 12 years old. Wow. And I always tell people that if you're from Kinston and you marry somebody from Kinston, you never leave Kinston. So until retirement age, then everybody seems to move to the beach. I've got about 4 more years in law enforcement. I'll be eligible for retirement. Mm-hmm. I've worked for a small department in Pitt County for a year. When I graduated BLET way back in 1999. I came to Kinston in January of 2001. And really, we've had a lot of people come and go. I've had a lot of friends come and go, but I don't know. Kinston has always been good to me. I've had a great career here. I always tell people, if you stick around long enough, they'll promote you. So that's not exactly true, but I knew I wanted to be a police chief probably around 2004. If not a police chief, I knew I wanted to be in administration. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be able to have influence on people and make an impact on a department. Wow. So I went back to school, got my 4-year degree, got my master's degree, and got several certifications, just like I'm sure you have, AOMP and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then, once I became administrator around 2019, I applied for the major position, tried out for it, got the position. And then really, I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a police chief did. I thought they just came and went, until really I became a major. And then when I made police chief in October of 2022, I think it was, wow, I had no idea. It's been a lot of work, and they say the life of a police chief is about 5 years, and I certainly understand it. So, but I'm happy. I like Kinston, and I'm hoping to finish up here and just make a good impact on our community.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. I mean, like I said, we've known each other for a while and we've done some training together. I think what I have been attracted to you and your energy is that you're willing to say, "Oh, I didn't know that." You know, I didn't think people
Mhm.
perceived it that way. I mean, you're willing to be vulnerable about the fact that there's some things that you might not be cued in on because you just hadn't been exposed to certain things. And for me, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, you kind of, I mean, I made it all the way up to deputy chief, and yeah, it's a different world when you're up there doing that and got to manage and that kind of stuff. I think the universe. I mean, I don't have the college degree to be a chief, but I think the universe saw that I probably shouldn't be a chief because I don't really know how to talk to people because I'll probably be out of job. So
Well, it's
probably
and
worked
now
out.
Durham, Kinston's a lot smaller than Durham. We're only about 20,000, which is probably, you know, a precinct to you all.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I couldn't imagine being a deputy chief in Durham. Wow, too
yeah.
many people.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, the size of Kinston, so what is the size of your agency?
So we have about 20,000 residents. We've got, give or take in the city, we've got about 50,000 people commuting and working in the city on a daily basis. But our population is about 20,000. Our police numbers, we've got 67 sworn positions
Mm.
and 5 reserve positions, and we've got 7 civilian or non-sworn positions that are key to our organization. I always tell people our non-sworn staff, they don't get the credit that they deserve, but they're the ones that run the organization. 100%.
100%. And I really appreciate you saying that because I used to tell my folks if the records division went out of this building, the whole building would collapse because
Oh my,
we would have no clue how to do anything. I mean, yeah, people don't realize it's those unsung heroes that people don't say enough thank you
absolutely.
understand where they fit in the structure. So I definitely
Yeah,
appreciate you saying that. So let's a couple of things I want to start out with. We were going to do this earlier, but you've had a couple of incidents that have been newsworthy in your community, and if you feel comfortable, to just kind of like kind of talk about some of those, how you process that, and how that's going with the community members who obviously was a lot of chatter because I kind of kept up with it.
sure.
Obviously. So just kind of if you would just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so, you know, social media is an amazing tool. It can be good, it can be bad. The biggest thing that I see as a law enforcement officer, especially as a police chief, is just the misinformation that is on social media. So, for example, if somebody sees a 4 second or even a 3 second blip, and they see somebody getting handcuffed on the ground, there's a lot more to the story that meets the eye. We had a situation. It's actually in court right now, so I can't talk so much about it, but it was in our
Right.
public housing complex,
Yeah.
and there's certain rules that you have in public housing. Trespassing signs on every corner. We've got we got an MOU that's signed with the Kinston Housing Authority where we assist those housing communities with trespassers and those going on the grounds and committing crime. And I'll give you an example. The large majority of those who go and commit crime in our public housing do not live there. They're just visiting, they're coming by, they're stopping by, they're doing a drive-by.
Right.
So we try to stay in those areas, and because those are our main areas where we have crime,
Okay. Okay.
specifically violent crime.
Um,
Great people live there, great people visit. I'm not saying if you're barbecuing or grilling out on a Saturday at 2 o'clock, you're having a birthday party. The police more than likely are not going to go up there and talk to you other than say asking for a piece of chicken. I don't know. People just that's not what we do.
right.
But we had a situation one night around 9. It's about 9 o'clock at night. We had some gentlemen standing around a car. There was a firearm in the car. That car was used in a criminal behavior. A week or two prior to that, our officers had knowledge of that. We got out with those individuals, and one of them started to run. We then had a situation where there was a Terry frisk on one of the individuals. He didn't want to be searched, and try explaining the difference between a search and a Terry frisk.
Right.
Police officers, they can't just search you for no reason. There has to have reason to search somebody.
Right.
In this situation, it wasn't a search; it was just a Terry frisk. Make sure you didn't have a weapon on you because there was a bulge in this young man's waistband. Either way. situation became physical. And somebody in the community was recording it. There was a bunch of people out there recording it. It got a lot of attention. We had a protest right here in front of my office outside the next, I think 2 days later. So that kind of ruined my Mother's Day. But there was a lot of misinformation in that situation.
Right.
And now it's tied up in the court system where,
Yeah.
there's no ill will towards anybody there. We're just trying to protect the citizens who live there.
Right.
The gentleman had ended up having an arrest warrant for his arrest.
Mhm.
It was just a really sticky situation, and I
Yeah.
hope it gets resolved soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But we caught a lot of flack. We caught a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
flack in the community.
Yeah, you did, and I think what I appreciate you talking about bringing that. I just kind of like I said, we both know you've been having some stuff, and I think one of the things that I try to tell community members is sometimes the cameras doesn't start rolling until after the first part starts. And then,
Yeah.
obviously my mantra, I think most people, is you cooperate and complain later. Well, let's get through this interaction safely because the thing in line that connects the law enforcement officer and the community members, everybody wants to go to the house. So you may
Yeah.
feel like the officer is violating your rights, and that's okay if you feel like it, but at that moment, let's just get through this process. And then, you have the ability, the community has the ability to come to you, and we'll talk about this later, file a complaint. And then,
Sure.
have that process work. I mean, there's a process, and I get people get emotional,
Mhm.
especially because we're still in this particular climate that we're in. So I appreciate you willingness to talk about
Yeah.
that. So, my thing to folks that are listening is that, what I'm trying to do, and I believe because I've been working with Kinston, it's just let's just sit at the table and talk about what we can do to make this better and build on these relationships and learn from whatever things happen and move forward. Because somebody's seeing it. I mean, because you got kids and children who see this. And you want to make sure they understand that, there are things and ways that you may need to try to interact because it's about getting to the house. So
And I know that I'm not perfect. I know I don't always do things right, and I'm not going to sit here and say that we always do things right. I think there's opportunities for improvement. We could always talk better to people. We can work together. There's never he was wrong 100%. There's always something where we can both improve the situation. And at the end of the day,
yeah,
everybody wants the same thing. They want to be loved, they want shelter, and they want something to eat. So that we're all human, but
yeah,
we tend to forget that sometimes, and we
yeah,
let our emotions get the best of us.
yeah. And I mean,
Mm,
see, that's why I like you a lot because that is it. We're all human beings, and we all want the same thing. And I appreciate you saying that.
yeah,
Um, So I think so folks this recording is coming right after it's during the middle of the heated elections that are coming up, and Fraternal Order of Police has just endorsed one of the candidates, and you can look up who that is. And
sure.
there's no way that we can ignore that because both of us, I joined FOP when I was with the agency, and I didn't because I never was one of those ones for organizations. I was kind of like let my chief go, belong to stuff. Tell me what you want. I got it back here at the shop. So I belonged to it for a little while, but I wasn't a faithful member of FOP for no real reason. It's just, I just don't do
Mhm.
organizations. So I just kind of wanted to toss that out into the space as to how you feel about this particular endorsement.
So I'm kind of like you. I've been a member of the PBA and the FOP in the past. Probably FOP more than anything. For whatever reason, I didn't attend meetings or anything. I was never a real.
Yeah.
I probably should have been more involved, but look, I have 3 kids and 2 Yorkies, and that had my life for the most part.
Yep.
You know, and when it comes to endorsements and stuff, that's something that I try to stay away from political
Yeah.
situations. I know a few police officers that have reached out to me regarding that particular situation, and
Yeah.
I can't discuss that because
Yeah.
really it's against our policy to take photographs of politicians during political
Mhm.
season to discuss it, and it'll get you jammed up, especially on social media. So
Yeah.
I just try to stay away from that. And
Yeah.
what I always tell people is whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen. And guess what? We're going to breathe the next day and figure it out.
Figure it out. That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And what I'd like to suggest, because I need to put it out there that what I want people to understand that I belong to a Black organization. I have a couple of Black organizations, and they endorse candidates all the time. And most of the time, I don't agree with half of them. So I just need
Sure.
people to understand that, you got almost 400,000 individuals who belong to this organization does not necessarily mean that all 400,000, agree with it. Just like
Yes.
anybody else. I mean, you may go to church and go, yeah, I agree with that part, but I don't agree with that part. And so just if people would just kind of keep that in mind, that does not, for those individuals, especially now with everything that's going on, and again, this climate, please don't, wherever you are on the spectrum, apply whatever that is to each and every officer, because it doesn't necessarily mean that. That's just like organizations make decisions, and then people in the organization may not agree. So just don't make a blanket, and view that as something that's all folks believe, so, or support.
Another thing, BJ, is like, so when you have political situations like that, very rarely are you going to have somebody that's involved in municipal, like a police department or a fire department, that are going to endorse. Whereas the sheriff's office, and that's an elected official, he or she, they can
Yeah.
throw their weight around any way they want, and you don't like it, oh well,
Yeah.
I'm elected. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
So, that's why you'll see the Sheriff's Association and different sheriffs across the state of North Carolina. They'll endorse, but you very rarely will you see a police chief or anybody.
Yeah.
We tend to stay away from there.
You tell them, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's bad enough you got to, do what you got to do sometimes, So as you
Yeah,
gotta be
I
yeah,
work for a city manager who works for a board, and there's a lot of people involved. So,
yeah.
we stay away from
I
that type
know,
of stuff.
I know. Cool. Thank you for doing that. So what I want to ask you now is, I know you believe in community policing, obviously, and kind of let me know how that translates. How does your philosophy translate into community policing, and how it's served, how your police service is done, and how do you get that, and knowing what we, there's a job that has to be done, at some
Yes.
point, like you said, incidents occur. So what is your philosophy, and how do you translate that to the community? And then how do you translate to make sure that your frontline officer understands your philosophy and the police service that you want to represent, and who Kinston Police Department is in Kinston?
Sure. So first and foremost, I believe in treating people with respect. Dignity and respect will get you a long ways. And I watch it every single day. So in order, whenever we have use of force incidents, whenever we have citizen complaints on our officers, there's a method to how that takes place. For example, if somebody were to complain on a patrol officer, that complaint would come into the sergeant of that shift. It then would go to the captain of that shift, and then would go up the chain to the major of support services. That's Major Russell. He would look at that. Then it would go internal affairs, and then after it's reviewed by our internal affairs, then it comes to me, and then I make the final say of what happened or which way we're going to go. And so I'm constantly looking at body worn camera footage.
Right.
I probably looked at 6 different things today alone.
Wow.
And I'm going to say 95% of the time when I see that body worn camera footage, officers, they're following suit. There is a situation here and there where we can do better. And that's when we need to work on de-escalation. That's when we need to have some remedial training, or as Chief Harry Dillon used to always say, that's a knock it off moment. Hey, you need to do better. So there's a routine that follows when that happens. And whenever I look at body worn camera footage, I see that we've definitely improved over the years. We've got a long ways to go, just like everybody does. But really treating people with respect and dignity. And like I tell my people, tell everyone the why. When somebody gets the why is this? Why am I getting stopped? Why am I getting a citation? Why are you arresting me? If you tell them the why right away, like, hey, sir, I'm stopping you right now because you were going 65 and a 45. You tell them right away that they may still argue with you, but tell them the why right away, and then we go from there. And you treat people with respect, it'll get you a long way. There's still going to be that 1%, 2%, 3% that's going to give you trouble.
Yeah.
But overall, just being respectful to citizens and being respectful to yourself can go a long way. And that's my philosophy when it comes to just treating people in general. And that's a big part of community policing. And really, for me, it's getting out of the office, getting our administrative staff out of the office, and getting out in the community, talking to people. Hey, what do you see? What can we improve on? What can our city improve on? I give you an example. We were doing a we did some fundraising a couple months ago. We were able to get some school books, notepads, back to school stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a elementary school about 6 blocks away. And for their orientation, we were out there picking hot dogs, giving away water, and giving away school supplies. While we were there, one of the residents in the community said, "Man, look at that grass over there. It's 6 foot tall. How are our children going to walk on that sidewalk? They're going to get lost in the grass." Well, the very next day, I didn't think anything of it, but 2 of our officers were going to cut some the police range grass. And they said, "Hey, let's go cut that grass, that little patch of grass over there so the kids can get to school." So they cut that. No, we didn't tell them to do that. That's just something they did. The community told them what their concern was. Those officers reacted.
Yeah.
And that's a small example of community policing. And really just getting everyone in the department to buy into being fair. You don't always have to make an arrest. You don't always have to write a citation. We're big on warning tickets. We're huge on
we're going to talk
tickets.
about that too. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time and a place when someone has to go to jail.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place when somebody needs a citation, but for the most part, it's tough. It's tough in 2024. People don't make the money they were making in 2000 and whatever. So we understand that, and we're willing to work with our community. And especially when you write tickets, we don't get any funding from that. That goes to the state. Really, it's just we want people to change their behavior, and that's a lot of what we try to do. And we just try to work with the community the best we can. When we have a shooting or a homicide, we can't solve that. It takes the community to work with us, to work together. And so I could talk all day long about that kind of stuff. So,
oh man, you singing my song, man. I mean, I was sitting here thinking, dang, I wouldn't mind working for him. I mean, because that's what it's all about. I mean, I really need people I'm gonna try to remember what you just said. I mean, I need people to understand you got a chief looking at body-worn cameras. I need people to understand that does not happen in large organizations, unless there's something that's already hit the damn fan. So you got a chief that's taking the time to look at body-worn cameras of his officers and making sure they're doing what he wants them to do and present and do the police service, and then the respect, and the why. Well, that's one of the things I talk about in my presentations is, I'm hoping the officer will tell you why, because a lot of people get upset. Just tell me why you stopped me. And it just goes south for no reason.
It does.
And I've heard the arguments from some officers, because unfortunately for some officers in some communities, it's like, if I tell them, they're not going to give it to me anyway. And I get that, because you do possibly have individuals that do that. And so that particular officer may run into that more often than others. But for the most part, like you said, tell me why you stopped me, and then we're going to go from there. So that for me is just key. The thing with the grass, I'm sitting here going, just when I was a district commander, we had a church complaining about a vacant lot, grown over, and drug dealers were in and out. So we called the urban forester guys, or whoever it was for the city, cut it down, because now the don't even have anywhere to go. I mean, and that's not even any work. That's not police. That's community. That's the city working together, and you've solved the community's problem with a lawnmower.
That's right.
Police officers have solved the problem with the lawnmower. People don't think about it like that, and that's just what your officers did. That's what it's all about. So I definitely appreciate that. So it is about that. I'm gonna come back to that as we get through about your respect and stuff, and I'll tell you about that. So I see the Citizen Police Academy. I know you got one coming up, and you how long have you been doing Citizen Police Academies, and what are the expectations that you're hoping that the citizens who attend will do once they go through your Citizen Police Academy?
So way back in 2014, I was in a law enforcement management program. It was a 6-month program. You went to class 1 week for 6 months, and you had to do a project. And I was just big on getting those stakeholders in our community. It just made sense to get people to come in and learn what we do. and explain the why. So, presented that to our boss once I got out of class, and it just never happened for whatever reason. Just wasn't on the radar. So I knew whenever I became police chief, that's something we were going to do. Our internal affairs sergeant, Sergeant Walker, is a great guy. He had a similar type program. His program was on Citizens Police Academy as well too. So he put it together. His was way better than mine. And I looked over it and I said, if you want to coordinate it, Sarge, you're more than welcome to. And he took the bull by the horns. And we had our first one last fall. I think we did 9 weeks. We learned that was a little too long. So we're going to drop back to about 6 weeks. But I'll tell you, it was awesome. We had different instructors every week. We had 2 different instructors every single week. So you didn't have the same person.
Right.
And just explained a lot of what we do day in and day out, explained the why. And I will tell you, at the graduation, we had a young lady. She wanted to discuss her experience in the academy, and her experience was, I've never really trusted the police, never had a really positive light of the police, which is why I took this class. I was a skeptical. I wanted to see.
Right.
And she said, but because of my time with you all, I realized you're just like me. You have a mortgage, you have a car payment. You're just working a profession and doing the best you can. And really, just with her getting to know the why, getting to know the officers, she was like, I'm a believer now. Now I understand. And I think she was trying to finish up her school so she can go to BLET. So hopefully in the future, that could happen. You never know.
Nice. Nice. How many
so
people
we had about 13 people last year. Right now we're currently enrolling. I think we've got 8 so far signed up, and that'll start in early October. So I like it. It gives an opportunity for community members to get to know us personally one-on-one. So
that's pretty good. 13, especially the size of your community. That's a lot. I think that's really good. Wow, that's impressive. That is impressive. Yeah, but that's cool. Well, congratulations. Who's the sergeant that's over that?
Sergeant, his name's Sergeant Julian Walker. Okay. He's in charge of our internal affairs, and he heads up our Citizens Police Academy.
Nice.
He's a solid guy.
Awesome. Yeah. I just talked to somebody a few minutes ago about SROs that have been in a particular school, and they were kind of complaining about, I keep saying the word climate. I think everybody understands what I'm thinking about that.
Oh, we know, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think I need to go into details about that. So anyway, they were kind of concerned about that. Why do they have them there? So I have met at least a lot of your SROs, and they are just stellar. They're there for the kids. I mean, when I had 2 of them on my podcast a couple of years ago, and they checked me on my podcast, they were like, no, because I was asking about, trying to take care of the kids, and then I only like, no, they can't come to meets because the mom and dad are working. I was like, so they get it, and they hear stories that, some of them were really sad about what they were going through. So kind of give me a little insight as to, how your SROs work. Because before you answer that, because I know I was telling the person that some of the SROs, the community needs to figure out what that relationship's going to be like. Are they in it to enforce house rules or laws? So what does that look like? I mean, what is it you're trying to do with your SROs, and what does that look like with the schools? I mean, you guys have to agree on this is what we want you to do, and what is that you both have committed to doing in this climate?
So that can be extremely tricky, especially for that SRO. He or she has 2 different bosses: the police department and the public school system. And what we meet annually to discuss is what do we want it to look like, and what we at the police department want it to look like is we want an officer at the school for a couple reasons. One, protection. We want an officer up there to protect the students from intruders, from firearm incidents, and incidents such as that. When it comes to teenagers fighting, it's going to sound crazy, but my personal opinion is that that's a staffing issue. Let staff take care of it.
Yep.
Let staff take care of it. Now, if they're in trouble, we come in and we help them out. But really, we don't need to be the ones in there getting involved with that unless there's injury about to take place. There's a weapon involved. try to let them take care of that.
Mhm.
House rules, we don't want to enforce that. That's not a police issue. We're really there for protection, to protect the grounds, because we have had people over the years come on with firearms, or there may be a shooting after a football game, and that's what the police officer or the SRO is there for, in my opinion. Um, we have a pretty good working relationship with our high school and our middle school. We've got two very good SROs. Kraft has been there this is his second year. And Officer Denisha Rouse, I think this is her third or fourth year at Rochelle.
Yeah, she's the one. She and Mewburn were the ones on my podcast.
Yes. Oh, I love Mewborn. Mewborn's my guy. Love that guy. But Officer Rouse, I mean, she's a force up there at the middle school, and she's really good. I think within 20 minutes of her starting this year, she already had one down here calling mom. So middle school can be tough.
Yeah.
Middle school can be tough. So, but we have a really good relationship with our school system, and I'm really confident in our SROs. And another thing they do is they mentor. They're there for the kids. The kids talk to them. They trust them. And as an SRO, you do not want to. You don't want to lose that trust.
Right.
It's important to take that to be confident to that person and build that relationship. Again, respect and dignity can go a long way, even with our youth.
Mhm. Yeah, Rouse, I think, told a story about she saw a kid in the Dollar Tree or something like that, and she was trying to, I don't know, I think they wanted to talk to her or something like that, and she kind of worked with them and things like that. So yeah, I think I heard or saw somewhere Mewburn has transferred away. He's no longer SRO. He's an investigator now.
So he's on our patrol right now.
Oh, okay.
He was at the high school for about 5 years.
Okay.
So it was time for him to rotate out.
Mhm.
I could see him getting promoted in the future. So it was good for him to come out, get some street experience,
Right.
and go from there. So
Okay.
he's a
Yeah.
huge asset to our organization, though.
Yeah, your officers, the ones that I have talked to, have been just, they definitely get the message that you're putting out there. It's definitely getting to the ground, and that's important. And I think I don't want to say it's easier to do in the size of your organization, because you have the capability of actually knowing all your officers, because you don't.
Yeah.
That you really have to work at it in a larger organization. I'm not saying that we did it well, but there was one thing that I tried to do while I was there. We actually would, just before we would start meeting with them occasionally before they would go to work, right? Have them come in for a few minutes, an hour, and then check so everybody had a chance to just come in and talk to the command staff. You got to work at it when you're organizing, because at some point when you start having 500,000+ officers, you're not going to know everybody. I mean, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it can have an impact on the message getting all the way down to the frontline officer, where the service is actually being done. You and I, we're not out there answering calls. We're saying this is what we want our officers to do, but we're just kind of hoping they do that. So people need to understand that it takes work to get that message to that front line, and community members need to let us know if it ain't getting there. They got
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and they'll let you know. They'll let you know if they're not happy.
I know you know.
Yes.
I know you know. I think we've kind of touched. I think you kind of answered that for me as far as your philosophy and that thing. I kind of want to hit just a little bit on I noticed you release a weekly crime stat, right? Which I think is pretty impressive. And that's when you start talking about your warning tickets. And I think I might have made a comment some time ago on that. And I was like, is anybody paying attention that their folks are stopping all these cars, and most of them are being issued are warning tickets? That's significant. And I wanted to make sure people understand. Do you not understand that this organization is issuing more warning tickets? And when you look at this, Ferguson, after they did that, they actually went back and looked at that. I know you said that, you guys aren't getting money, but for in that, when they looked at that, that's how they were generating money.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah. And so people need to understand is these little things like this mean something. And so you put this stuff out, and why is it important for you to put this out like that?
We want to be as transparent as we can. There's certain things we cannot release. Intelligence, we can't release that. We can't release investigative situations, our case files.
Right.
But to be transparent, be as transparent as we can. We want our community. Look, they're paying me. They're paying all of us. We work for the citizens. We want them to know how many calls we're going to, how many arrests we're making, how many warrants we're serving, citations, warning citations, how many illegal firearms we're seizing on the street. Not as many as we did last year. I would say that's a good thing. As
Yeah,
crazy as that sounds,
yeah,
people are being compliant with their firearms now, or maybe those they're not committing as much the crimes with those firearms. So I would say that's a good thing. But we want our community to know what their officers are doing day in and day out. And we may miss a week here and there, but we'll try and put it out there.
yeah,
So we at the end of the year we have all those stats out there for everybody to know what's going on.
yeah. And I appreciate
It's important.
it is important, and I pay attention to it. So actually, I looked at your last week, August 27th through the 2nd of September, and so just so folks know, he has what he puts out there is calls for service, on view arrest, warrant served, number of traffic stops, and the tickets and warning ticket versus actual tickets, guns seized. But what I want to do is add this up for folks, and hopefully I'm doing it right, Chief. So what I've added up is, so you did 221 traffic stops the week of August 27th through the 2nd, September 2nd. And of those 221, it was 113 warning tickets, right? That's right at half, right?
Yeah, good.
That's right at half. And then 86 tickets. And then there were 434 calls for service. And I did not count calls of service because I also saw that you had number of crashes that you responded to, and I am making the assumption that the number of crashes that you responded to is included in the calls for service. So that's an
correct.
assumption. Okay, that's an assumption that I made. So basically, what I want to tell the community or folks listening is you had 430. There were 434 that the citizens call you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the proactive stuff where you initiated interaction was through on view arrest, warrant served, and your traffic stop. So that's 256, right? That you guys initiated interaction. So that's a total of 690 times during that week that you guys either were called or your folks interacted with the police. What I want folks to understand is, and I'm going to ask Chief Goyette, I don't know whether he knows the answer to this, but he might, but I asked one of his executives, how many complaints out of that do you think he got from citizens? Do you know?
I know. Yes.
Oh, he told you.
So we had, out of all those interactions, we had one citizen complaint and 2 use of forces.
Yep.
So I mean
that's huge, and I need people to understand that is huge. 690, 400 of those plus community members called for service. 256 of those the officers initiated, and 1 complaint on the complete. I mean, I heard that. What was the other thing that you said? You had 2 what use of force?
Use of forces. We had 2 use of forces out of that from that week.
So that's kind of like 3, right? That doesn't even come to 1%, and that's just for 1 week, right? That's just for 1 week, and I'm going to kind of stay with that because that's kind of one of the things that I push doing for my UN50 is if you want to see change, you got to speak up. You got to let as chief, deputy chief, I don't know that my message on how I want police service to be done is being done unless you tell me it's not being done. And then give me an opportunity to correct it. And I believe Chief Goyette does that. So I took a look at your annual report from 2023, and you had 33,000 calls for service. You had 23 citizen complaints for the entire year of 2023. Again, that's a number compared to that is 1%. It's not even 1%. I mean, it doesn't even, I don't even know how many, it may be a couple of zeros, but it's not even a lot of zeros before it even gets to 0.5%. So I kind of want to just kind of reiterate what you've been talking about: respect, dignity, professional, ask the why. And then the message I have for and the work that I do is, if you're going to be in the community complaining about stuff, then you need to, before something happens, let's say, Officer X has always been a certain way, but you don't complain on Officer X until it blows up and it's in front of WNCT or WITN. And what I'm saying is you need to do that and file these complaints prior to, but it looks like, based on the numbers, citizens are really happy with Kinston Police Department. And
I would say,
so,
overall
yeah,
that would be the case. You're
I
going to
would
have a
say,
few people here and there, you know.
yeah, you're always going to have, I mean, you're always going to have people that just don't like the popo for whatever reason.
Mhm.
But, to stand up and say certain things about agencies, but yet you've never filed a complaint about these issues is not fair. It's not fair. Hold them accountable, but do a little bit of work on your end. So I just wanted to put that out there for folks. And also, I mean, I don't need you to, I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but just kind of tell me for you why you have continued this relationship with you and 50.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, it's important for our community to understand what their rights are. Some people don't know that they can't say no, or some people don't know that if they're driving a motor vehicle and an officer asks for your driver's license, that you have to produce that driver's license. You know, they don't understand that an officer requests you to step out of the car. You might not want to if you're a driver, but if he's asking you or telling you, you've got to get out. You can complain later, but you got to cooperate.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. Then for my officers, it's important for my officers to attend the training, so they can learn different aspects of humanity. We may have an officer that grew up totally different than our community, 6 states away. But you're able to come in there and explain, this is the way this person grew up. This is the way this person grew up. We might not look alike, but we're all the same. But you got to start thinking about this. I could think one of the things like in your class was the slave patrols. That was the bread of the South in policing. Some of
Right.
those young officers, they never heard that before. They didn't know it. They didn't know the historical aspect of it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and different cultures are different. It's important to think and to learn and really to adapt. And that's where just having respect for each other can go a long way. You may not know me, I may not know you. We're probably from different neighborhoods, but at the end of the day, we need those three things.
Yep.
We're all human.
Yep.
And that was a good thing for you and 50. And teaching the students, that was really, really big for us. We're like any other community here in North Carolina. I mean, we struggle with youth crime, youth violence, and it was important to get that information out to our youth and as well as our adults as well. Just it's important to get that information out.
And you are, and I tell people about you a lot. I mean, you are for small communities because, you know, because of what is happening and that endorsement. I mean,
Hmm.
that endorsement for me means for communities that don't have leaders like you, but
Yeah.
small communities that need leadership like you, and you're not everywhere. You're not replicated across the country. So it's
Well, I
just
appreciate it.
important to
Too
for
kind.
people to hear from small organizations that they have leaders like you in place, especially in a little mini chocolate city. It's
Yeah, and
important.
then we
Yeah,
didn't even touch on that, but Kinston being 70% African American, that's
yeah,
a situation in itself. And being a Caucasian police chief, you have to build that trust, and you're not going to get everybody's trust, but a lot of people know me. I went to school here. For the most part, I'm from here. When I went to Kinston High School, it was 98% African American, and I was one of the white kids on the football team.
Mhm.
Um, Again, we all just have to trust each other, and just we're all human, and that's the thing. So I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just where
no,
we're
I
at.
appreciate that. But also just want to let folks know that Kinston also was the reason I started training. I had always thought about training police officers based on what I've been hearing over the years I've been doing this work, and they afforded me that opportunity to have the inaugural UN50 for officers to give them insight. I mean, basically, he kind of put it kind of nice, but it basically is just letting some of these officers know why some communities view them through a particular lens, and it's not
Mhm.
personal. It's not personal for you. It is just the history of that,
Yeah.
and then how do you navigate that as you say, as a human being, that they first got to see you as a human being. I don't know whether you noticed, Chief, when we did that training, and I don't know whether your officers told you later, but every officer that walked in, I tried to shake their hand or introduce myself, and every one of them said, "My name is Officer so and so." And I said, "Did your mama name your officer?"
Yeah.
It's because the first thing you need to do is let them know, because they can see you in a uniform. They know you're the
Yeah.
popo.
Sure.
So let's come at them first. It's just, this is who I am. Let's just start there and just kind of getting folks to think about that. But I just thought it was interesting that they all, for the most part, was like, I'm Officer so-and-so. No, your mama didn't name you officer. Your mama named you Beverly.
And you know, and that's funny you say that, because when I was young, I would have been the same way. But now that I'm older and more mature,
Yeah.
I always introduce myself as, like, if I'm in uniform, hey, my name is Keith Goyette. I'm the police chief in Kinston, North
Yeah.
Carolina. Or when I'm doing a media report, I always say my name. But as a young person, you know, you're scared to give your name because you don't want somebody to Google you and find out where you live. And I'm like, dude, somebody go on Facebook or Instagram and find out everything about you. You know, it's okay to tell people who you are. You're a person.
Yeah, ain't nothing sacred. Ain't nothing sacred.
That's right.
So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support. So last thing I want to do, I'm going to read this. I know you know this, but I kind of want folks to understand why I'm reading. I'll let them know. So yeah, I'm reading your mission statement. And I'm going to also be reading your values for your department. So your mission statement is KPD pledges to serve our community, to safeguard lives and property, to preserve order, all while respecting the constitutional rights of everyone to liberty, equality, and justice. And you have just been really talking about respecting constitutional and everybody's liberty to be equal and I love that. I really like the way that you have done that on your statement. Then your values for your department are as follows: compassion first. That was the first thing you put out there. You didn't put professionalism, it's in here, but you didn't put it as the first thing. You put compassion first. And that really, it's about, again, we keep saying this, it's about humanity. It's about you interacting with human beings at their worst moment. And those individuals are looking to us, or law enforcement, to help them, and they need compassion. And I appreciate that. So it's compassion, professionalism, fairness, and respect that you've been drilling at home, honest, trust, integrity, and loyalty. And the reason I wanted folks to hear that is because after all these years that I have been doing this work, and you've heard me say this before, Chief, I've talked to close to 3,500 persons across, and I started this business in 2015. And most of my attendees are Black. No reason to sugarcoat that. This is what it is, right? So the top 5 things that always come out, no matter who I'm talking to, where I am, the top 5 things are: they feel a lack of respect, they fear the exercise of constitutional rights, unprofessionalism, and the complaints are not taken seriously. And then the last one is they just don't understand that. But you have hit on all of those. Your philosophy is respect, making sure that their rights are respected, that your officers are professionals, and that you are saying this is how you file a complaint. So you're doing 4 out of 5. And the 5th one is basically the community, right? That they've got to understand how you do your work. I mean, it's a job, and do that. And then you just said that the woman that went to your academy was like, oh yeah, it's a job. You guys just trying to make a mortgage. And so I applaud you to do that, because I'm hearing this, like I said, from 3,000 persons over the last 10 years. And every one of these always come up in your agency under your leadership. Knock it out, all 4 of them. And I appreciate it.
We're trying. I will say this: we can do better. I do believe there's always room for improvement, but I think that our officers have really bought into the program. They understand the standard. They know the values, and we need to make this organization the best we can, so our community can be as great as it can. And Kinston's gotten a lot better over the years. We get a bad rap. A lot of people talk about Kinston negative light. The news loves to come to Kinston, but really, if you pull our crime stats compared to other neighboring cities, we're no worse. I think we're actually better the last couple of years than some of our sister cities. So, and I'm proud of that, but I think we can do better. I think we can lower crime even more. And I thank the community for what they do day in and day out. And we've got some great officers and great staff members. And we had a unfortunate situation about 2 weeks ago. We had a senseless murder in one of our public housing complexes. Made no sense. Yes. Got shot, just sitting outside her in a chair. She had a little child, I think 2 months old, right beside her, and the bullets went right around the child. So thank Lord that child was looked over, did not get harmed. But it was extremely senseless. And for that week, we had multiple situations where there was gunfire in that neighborhood. Another person got shot, and you know, the men and women of the police department, everybody was out there working hard, working diligently to solve those crimes, and you know, they're just relentless. We want to solve the crime and hold those accountable for those in the community that want to sit on the porch and not get shot.
There you go. Yeah.
And that's what we just have to work together, and we've done a really good job. And I look forward, for years to come, how good Kinston's going to be, and we won't have that stigma on our back anymore. That's a huge goal of ours.
Well, yeah. Wow. Have you, I guess you end the story by saying you've made an arrest.
Yeah, we made an arrest in
Okay.
we actually arrested somebody for pulling the trigger for somebody that was with that person, an accomplice. So we did make an arrest. Within 2 days we had an arrest made. So
okay, good. I just want to leave and make sure, because I didn't hear you say that. I want to make sure I do that. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate, the work that you do. I appreciate your trust in me and the friendship, hopefully, that we've, kind of fostered together over the years, and taking the time to be with us today. Is there anything that you want to say on the way out?
I just want to thank you for our relationship and for everything that you've done for us here and in our community. And I look forward to talking to you very, very soon, and maybe we can collaborate and work together again. And I'm just thankful for everything that you've done. You've been a huge part of our organization.
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate it. And thanks to those that have been listening, and I appreciate you supporting UN50 as always. And as always, stay safe, stay well, peace. Hey, I just want to kind of say thank you to Keith Goyette, Chief Goyette, again, for being on the show. But I kind of one thing I want to add on the end of this is that I hope you guys are paying attention. What we try to do on UN50, especially when it comes to bringing on law enforcement, is to demonstrate to you that there is leadership for the next generation that's occurring out there. You don't have to agree with everything that we say here or the law enforcement leadership that we bring on, but just know that when I bring these leadership, they reflect the kind of community policing philosophy that I believe in. And Chief Goyette and his organization, they do that. And I want to bring you back to part of the conversation that he talked about when they were doing something out in the community, and someone said, the grass was tall for the kids. And he said the officers went over there and cut the grass on their own. And what you need to understand, and that means that his leadership, his philosophy is getting down to the ground, to the people in the offices that actually do the work, that are front, that are meeting the individuals. Because Chief Goyette is out there, and a lot of chiefs are out doing that, but the real work is the front line. So when you hear that officers are doing that, and officers are doing that without being told, that means that the philosophy and the culture of the agency is getting down from the top of the organization to the actual officers who are delivering the service. And that's what you need to look for. And then some other stuff, some of the words I think I mentioned that in his values for his department: compassion, professionalism, fairness, respect. All of those things are important, and you should be looking for as you search for your new chiefs or have an expectation of the leadership. And I know it may sound trivial, but I've been talking to over the last 10 years to closing in to 3,500 persons, and the bulk of the individuals that I do this training with are Black and brown individuals, primarily Black folks. And the top things that I mentioned earlier that always comes up is the lack of respect, afraid to exercise their constitutional rights, misconduct or unprofessionalism, and complaints not being handled. And all of those values are part of Chief Goyette's of being fair and integrity. The last thing that is number 5 is that, people really don't understand how police and what they do, but he got the top 4, and those 4 were from community members. So I would just encourage you to pay attention to the language of your leadership. And if you're not hearing that kind of language, and one way is when you go to a website and you look at your, are they showing you just the officers standing there in SWAT uniforms and stuff like that, instead of showing, their officers interacting with the community? Those little things you need to look for. So I would also invite you to take a look at episodes 49 with Chief Henry King, who's retiring from his organization, and Chief Jason Armstrong. Chief King, first chief in the state of North Carolina to find or use what they call BOLA, B-O-L-A, RAP, non-lethal, to get control of individuals. That's pretty safe, and it's on the rise. But he was one of the first ones to do that in the state. And then Chief Jason Armstrong, who is also about to retire, He may be the only one or one of the few police departments that have civilians, lawyers, and past judges who do his internal affairs or professional standards. He has those individuals investigating his officers. That's the kind of stuff and innovative information that you should be looking for your, it needs to fit your individual community. Each individual community needs to decide on how they want their police service to be delivered. It's on you, the community. So when I bring on law enforcement leadership, I'm bringing on individuals who I believe really are working towards community policing, and that's what we need, community policing. So I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, stay safe, stay well, peace.